We've decided to kick off hour number 2. We'll pause on the college hoops. We'll get back into it, Dirt. We kick off our second hour now that you're back on the saddle with our good friend Josh Pate. Late Kick with Josh Pate, CBS Sports 24/7. He's on the road now. The Pate State is on the road.
I believe he was in Manhattan, Kansas with maybe, we cannot confirm, but maybe with Jason Swigart having a Manhattan.
It's possible. Pinky's out when you're having a Manhattan in Manhattan. On Twitter at Late Kick Josh. And I want to start there with you, Josh, because we appreciate the time. I know you're busy and you're traveling. You've done some coaching interviews the last few days, and I've quite enjoyed them. But something from your Eli Drinkwitz interview stuck with me. And he said at one point in your interview, when you talked about building a program, he said that he learned from his App State approach that wasn't going to work in Missouri, and he had to pivot out in real time and do what was going to work for that situation because all of these colleges are different. I want to ask you, he got to 11 wins by doing this. I find it a fascinating admission and accountability, to be honest, with an SEC coach. Who is going to be the Eli Drinkwitz this year for you in college football? Guy that maybe figures it out and has the right approach and can pop the way Missouri did this year.
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't know if there's a guy that is new from the G5 level that's going to do it. I'll tell you one it could be, although he's still at the G5 level, it's just a higher level of G5, is John Summerall going to Tulane. I mean, that guy had Power 5 offers and chose Tulane, and he was at Troy. Everybody thinks that guy's going to be a rock star. Like in the coaching industry, everybody thinks that. You could also see Willie Fritz do it going from Tulane to Houston. So I would keep my eye on those. But I'll tell you one that's been fascinating to me is we've been out on the road. I mean, one of the favorite aspects of being on the road in spring is you get a lot of off-the-record one-on-one time with head coaches and coordinators, et cetera. And I can tell you, man, over the past couple of weeks, the guy that a lot of coaches look at and think highly of that you wouldn't expect is Billy Napier. Like, they think he's a phenomenal coach at Florida. They think that's the situation that Eli Drinkwitz is talking about, where maybe you did things successfully at a G5 level, and for whatever reason, the implementation, the spark just doesn't turn into a full flame at the Power 5 level, and doesn't make you not a good football coach is their point. And I was really fascinated. We did something on the show a couple of weeks ago with Frank Beamer. We were looking at him at Virginia Tech, and he comes there in the late 80s. And everybody just remembers Frank Beamer as like a legend at Virginia Tech. But if you look at it, it took him over half a decade to even top 6 wins. And then he goes on to rattle off double-digit wins in 13 of 17 years after that. So once they got it going, it got going. But the classical question today would be, would Frank Beamer even get to year 6 at Virginia Tech or in major college football?
No chance.
So no way. Like, I think about Napier that way right now. I think Napier's a really good coach. I don't doubt it. I think if given enough time, he'd figure it out. But sometimes you try and implement these approaches, and for whatever reason, they just don't fit. And it's like having a really high-performance car. Like, you know what it's capable of. It's the same as it's always been under the hood. But if it's kind of off in the ditch, if the wheels are spinning, a lot of times this day and age, you're not going to get time to find the traction. And as a result, something that could have been never becomes. And I think that's what Eli Drinkwitz was talking about, having to realize on the fly, no, we better change quick, or this is the SEC. We're not going to have a lot of rope.
It's funny. I didn't even have Billy Napier in my line of questioning, but now I do want to ask the question. There's no way he keeps his job next year, Josh. Look at that schedule. Are they rational enough to understand? I know you've talked about the schedule on your show. Like, best case scenarios, maybe 7. Like, it's brutally difficult. I don't see any way that he survives that.
No, there's a way, but it's a very, very narrow path. Let me put it that way. So your question about, would they be rational enough to understand? Let me give you a quick no. They will not be rational enough to understand. So forget about that. And I've always been of the opinion, if you're a fan base and you do everything that's asked of you, it's okay for you to have high expectations. It'd be one thing if your stadium's half full and you can't raise any money and you're not engaged, but then you want the elite results. Well, I'm not listening to you then. But Florida fans do everything they've been asked. And so, I don't blame them. Like, reality can be reality on both sides. But with Napier this year, I was looking at our metrics today, and of course this is spring and it's really preliminary, but let's just say for the sake of argument, our numbers are right. So our numbers suggest if Florida was, I think, like the 18th best team in the country, let's just, for the sake of argument, they're the 18th best team in the country. Okay. That's really good, right? That would be overachieving, I would think. If they were the 18th best team in the country and their schedule played out on paper exactly as it should, we have them being a 7-5 team.
Wow.
Because we have them playing that many teams better than them.
Jeez. Yeah, that's insane. All right.
Have fun
Josh
with
Pate
that.
is our guest here. Late Kick with Josh Pate, one of our favorites. Dion took to the podium the other day to respond to a story that says Dion doesn't go on high school recruiting visits. He doesn't go to high schools. He doesn't go to your house, your kitchen, meet your mom, your dad, because, well, he's Dion. They want to come see where he lives and how he lives his life. We talked about it on the show. I felt like it was, typical Deion Sanders feeling himself, making one or two good points, but largely to me, I love the portal. High school recruiting's still very vital to the health of a program. He basically admitted he doesn't care as much about that. He's a portal guy. How much is this going to backfire in your mind with Prime and Boulder?
Well, they're not going to build a team that way. I mean, I'm just flat out, they're not going to build a team, and they're not going to build a program, certainly, but I think people understand you're not going to build a program that way. Most people do. I'm going a step further. I don't even think there's a given year that you'll build a sustainable team that way, because I am not a believer you can ever acquire and develop enough line of scrimmage talent through the transfer portal, because I know how important it is to have the mortar between the bricks, so to speak, when it comes to those sorts of pieces. It's not a video game. Happy we have the video game back, and maybe on the video game you can do it that way. In real life, you can't. And I heard what he said, and you're right. Like, in terms of functionality, people would probably be mad if Dion went to one high school and didn't go to the other one. Like, go to both of them then. Like, go out there and
Right.
go to both of them. This is what in the real world we just call it recruiting. Like, we call it a grind, and that's what you do. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But I'm telling you, there's this thought after they got a hot start last year. There was just this thought that, boy, within the next couple of years, Dion's gone. To where is what I keep asking. To where? I'm entertained by him just like anyone else. I'm glad he's there. Like, I'll offer up all the prefaces that everyone else does. But I just keep wondering. People keep referring to 2024. Oh, after this year, he'll be gone. Where is he going? It's what I keep asking. Like, what kind of result are they going to put on the field this year that entices any other program that is a rung or two above Colorado to say, yeah, that's what we want?
Yeah, we were talking the other day, Josh, about how kind of the new standard in college football for programs outside of maybe one or two had become, like, you make the college football playoff, that's your, like, did we have a successful season? Yes, we made the playoff, or no, we didn't. I think that's going to kind of go out the window now, and we can get to this whole expanded nonsense, and we're up to 14, and, the payouts and all that stuff. Like, it continues to grow. I'm curious, as a two-parter for you. One, what does that become? Like, using a program like Oregon as an example, like making the playoff is one of the peak moments in the history of this program. They haven't done it since 2014. Is that still like the litmus test of, like, all right, you're in the playoff, you're in the mix, whether you win a game or not, that was a successful season? And then I'm just curious, like, we haven't dove much into the Big Ten yet, outside of, we know Ohio State and what they are, and Ryan Day and how successful he's been, but Michigan's got a new coach. Franklin can't quite win some of these big games. Washington's restarting. I'm just curious, not only the litmus test of Oregon as a program, what's successful and not, does it change going forward, and then how do they fit into that year one of the Big Ten?
They fit very well in year one in the Big Ten. I think they have the second best talent roster in that conference the day they step in there. And unlike any other West Coast team I can remember in recent history, they, in this moment, are plenty good enough on the lines of scrimmage, especially the defensive line. They have acquired and stacked the kind of depth and talent and versatility in talent that you need to be able to weather that. Now, I know people listen to that and they say, it's a couple of good teams and then a bunch of Purdue's and Iowa's. How tough can it be when you have people week in and week out that are bigger and stronger than you at the point of attack? The teams that are 7-5 can make you look foolish. USC is about to find that out, by the way. It does not matter that the team is an also-ran. It doesn't matter that they're 500. The style makes the fight. And you could just play Purdue on a random Saturday. If they outclass you physically on the line of scrimmage, all the perimeter skill in the world will not save you from that. All the elite DB talent in the world won't save you from that. So with Oregon, I think they're equipped for it. As for the standard, I'm on the wait and see bus on that. I don't know how that's going to feel, and not just with them, with any of these programs. If you lose your 2 key games and you don't go even play for a conference title, but you just kind of take a 9 seed in the playoff, and then you're one and done in the playoff, I don't think folks are celebrating that. Maybe you're celebrating it if it's Missouri or something like that, because I mean that's a novelty aspect, and they've never made it. But even though Oregon hasn't made it since 14, there have been several years with an expanded playoff they would have been in, and I think those folks know that. So I don't know if that's going to be celebrated. Like, think about last year. Last year, if you lose to Washington twice, you're a playoff team. Oregon would have been a playoff team. How do people feel when they make the playoff? Like, how anticlimactic does that feel?
How many coaches in the Big Ten would you take ahead of Lincoln Riley?
I'd take the guy at Oregon. I'd take the guy at Ohio State. I'm telling you right now, if we got football people in the room, there would be a fascinating debate of Lincoln Riley versus Greg Schiano, because the entire coaching industry thinks highly of Greg Schiano at Rutgers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
See, that's what they would say. They'd say Rutgers. I say, no. I didn't say I'd take Rutgers over USC. I'm talking about the coaches. I'm trying to think. So, like, there would also be argument, how do you classify Kirk Ferentz at Iowa? Because he's had more consistency. What I would say is I'd still take Riley, because although there may be more fluctuation in the result, I think the high end, the ceiling with Lincoln Riley is higher. It's high enough that I'll take the risk. Don't know anything about Sharon Moore.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Look, here's another fascinating case study coming up. How are we talking about Matt Rule another year or two from now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Fill in the blank for me on that. I don't know.
If you went to it by just achievement, I'm just curious to hear the explanation why you'd go Lanning over Riley. Just because Riley's at least had, the Oklahoma, the USC stuff, and I know last year wasn't great. He's had the Heisman winners. What makes it for Lanning over Riley for you?
He is more relentless as a recruiter. He emphasizes acquiring and developing talent on the defensive side. And if they have a bad game defensively, they're not sleeping until they fix it. If USC has a bad game defensively, in the past, like up to this point, they've just shrugged their shoulders and said, oh, well, at least we scored a lot. And that's, for me personally, not the kind of brand that I'd want to be buying into. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk down there at Southern California about how they're undergoing this whole philosophy shift. And maybe they are, and I'm totally fine giving benefit of the doubt. But I'll have to see it. I'll just put it that way.
The speaker series going to roll out to the Northwest. It's a question everybody wants to know the answer to.
All right, are you ready? Does anyone have a drum roll, or can someone just do it with their mouth? Okay, the answer is yes. Within the next month, we will be out there.
Hey,
go,
Trent Bray. All right, welcome to Corvallis again. Josh Pate, huh? Yeah.
Hey, we all saw that fist pump in Seattle. I'm sure Husky fans didn't let you, hear the end of that one after the way that game ended, and the Pate model and the JP poll and all that. But it'll be good to see you in Eugene, Pate.
It's my Zapruder film. That's what that's become for me. I didn't even know there was a grassy knoll behind me. I certainly didn't know anyone was recording.
I could talk to you for another hour on a lot of things that we didn't even touch on in this interview, but I'll get you out of here with this one because I know you're super busy, man, and we always appreciate the time. Would Meemaw bet a future on the Beavs and Cougs getting back into a power conference?
Meemaw never believed on betting anything west of the Mississippi, so she wouldn't. And that was just a personal thing with her. Man, how do we define power conference?
You know what I mean. Come on.
Not
the Pac-2. Not the Pac-2.
Yeah, I used to. Okay, so in that case, no. It all depends on if the Big Ten and SEC were to just do this whole split away thing. At that point, that's my question. Like, if that were to happen, what do we call a power conference? Do we call what the Big 12 and ACC, the remainder of the ACC, is a power conference? I don't even know that we would use that terminology anymore. I don't think there is a world, as I see it right now, where those two are hopping back into a premier conference anytime soon.
Okay. Good stuff. Josh Pate, Late Kick with Josh Pate. He's on the road right now. He's got a bunch of great interviews on YouTube. Go find the latest show where he talks about ESPN, the new media deal, and his interviews with the coaches are fantastic. Find him on Twitter at Late Kick, Josh. Josh, we always appreciate the time. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch up with you maybe closer to fall camp.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, there we go. Josh Pate, Late Kick with Josh Pate.